When I pushed open the heavy glass doors of Nexus Innovations, I took a deep breath. The air inside was a sterile mix of caffeine and code, the cold, crisp scent of ambition and the future. I was Leo Carter, 32 years old, here to interview for the position of Senior Product Manager. For this single moment, I had endured 3 years. More than 1,000 days and nights, a crawl back from hell to the land of the living point 3 years ago, when Isabella had thrown the divorce papers onto the table in our cramped Oakland studio. Her expression had been as cold as the air in this skyscraper. "I'm done, Leo," she'd said, her voice flat. "I can't spend one more day in this 40-square-foot box, smelling the neighbor's curry and worrying about next month's rent. I want a window with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. I want a walk-in closet for my shoes. Can you give me that?" At the time, as a junior programmer at a dying startup, I couldn't. I reached for her hand, my own trembling. "Bella, just give me a little more time. I'll work harder," she recoiled as if I were diseased, her eyes filled with a contempt that seared itself into my memory. "Work harder? Leo, your effort is worthless. This world doesn't care about the struggle. It only rewards results." Her words were a poisoned blade, twisting into the softest part of my heart. We had been the couple everyone envied in college, sticking together in a new city, sharing a bowl of ramen and calling it a feast. But the relentless grind of reality had worn that sweetness away, leaving only grit and bitterness that I signed the papers. There were no arguments, no pleas, just a dead, suffocating silence. The day she left, pulling her single suitcase behind her, she never looked back. I sat alone in that empty room, staring at the gray, indifferent sky, and for the first time, I understood what it felt like to have truly and utterly failed. But you can't stay at the bottom forever. Once you've rotted through, you either die or you start to climb. I chose to climb. I quit my comfortable, dead-end job. I poured every cent of my savings into online boot camps and certification courses, devouring new programming languages, studying product architecture, and analyzing market trends until my eyes burned. When sleep threatened, I splashed cold water on my face. When hunger hit, I ate the cheapest bread I could find. That tiny studio, once a symbol of my failure, became my monastery. In 3 years, I transformed myself from a simple coder into a project lead capable of managing products with million user bases. I job hopped twice, each time doubling my salary. And now, I stood here, ready to knock on the door of Nexus Innovations and claim a top-tier position in the industry. This wasn't just a job. It was the final exam for the life I had clawed back. The receptionist led me to a conference room named Comet. "The interviewer is waiting for you inside," she said with a polite smile. I straightened my tie, steadied my breathing, and pushed the door open. The room was flooded with light from a floor-to-ceiling window that offered a panoramic view of San Francisco's steel and glass canyon. The interviewer sat with her back to me in a large leather chair, reviewing my resume. She wore a tailored, cream-colored pantsuit, her dark hair pulled into a severe, elegant bun. Even from behind, she radiated an aura of untouchable authority. "Please have a seat," she said. Her voice, filtered through the high-backed chair, was cool yet disturbingly familiar. My heart hammered against my ribs as I sat down. Then, she turned. Time seemed to freeze. The ambient scent of caffeine, code, and ambition vanished, replaced by a suffocating sense of the absurd. The woman across from me, her face a mask of perfect makeup, her eyes distant and appraising, was Isabella. My ex-wife. My mind went blank. The 1,000 polished opening lines I had rehearsed lodged in my throat, leaving my mouth hanging slightly, stupidly open. I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Shock, maybe. So fast I thought I might have imagined it. She recovered in an instant, her lips curving into a professional, bloodless smile. "Leo Carter?" she asked, glancing from my resume to my face as if we were complete strangers who just happened to share a history. "Hello, I'm Isabella Vance, Director of Human Resources at Nexus, and I'll be leading your interview today." Director of Human Resources. The title hit me like a physical blow. So this is how well she had done since leaving me. Well enough to sit in judgment, to hold my future in her perfectly manicured hands. And I, like some cosmic joke, had spent 3 years climbing with all my might, only to end up at her feet that a toxic cocktail of humiliation, anger, and grief churned in my gut. I wanted to stand up and walk out, but I didn't. I had fought too hard for this chance to let her, of all people, be the reason I gave up. I forced myself to meet her gaze, to manufacture a cool smile of my own. Ms. Vance. A pleasure. My composure seemed to surprise her. One of her eyebrows arched almost imperceptibly. Shall we begin? She said, her eyes dropping back to my resume. A massive diamond glittered on the finger that had once been bare, catching the light and flashing it into my eyes. Mr. Carter, she began, stressing the formality. Your resume shows you were at a small company called Clouscape 3 years ago, followed by a nearly year-long gap. Can you explain that? The question was a surgical strike. She knew that company. She knew what that gap represented. The darkest, most chaotic period of my life, the immediate aftermath of her departure. She was forcing me to tear open my own scars, right in front of her. I looked at her, searching for any sign of mercy, but found only the icy detachment of her office. I found myself wanting to laugh. So this was the woman I had once loved. I took a slow breath and leaned back, making myself appear more relaxed than I felt. Ms. Vance, that wasn't a gap. It was a strategic pivot. I realized my existing skill set was insufficient for my long-term career goals, so I took that time for intensive, full-time study to completely rebuild my technical foundation. The results of that investment are why I have the opportunity to sit here today, discussing the future of Nexus Innovations with you. My answer was airtight, delivered with a faint, unmistakable edge of defiance. Isabella's eyes flickered. She hadn't expected that. After a brief pause, she moved on. What are your career aspirations? Why do you believe you're a fit for this company? The next half hour was a silent war. Every question was a carefully laid trap, designed to expose a weakness, to push me off balance. We covered project management methodologies, team conflict resolution, my vision for the industry's future. I summoned every lesson, every late night, every hard-won insight from the past 3 years, and met her challenge for challenge. I stopped seeing her as Isabella. She was just a particularly demanding interviewer I had to win over. That I clearly articulated my understanding of Nexus's flagship product, the Nexus Sphere app. I identified 3 critical pain points in its user experience and presented concrete, detailed proposals for how to fix them. The more I spoke, the more my confidence surged. The wireframes I'd sketched at 3 a.m., the user journeys I'd mapped and remapped, the market data I knew by heart, they became my weapons. Slowly, I saw her expression change. The initial cold scrutiny softened into surprise, then something that looked unervingly like admiration. When I finished detailing my final optimization strategy, a heavy silence fell over the room. She stared at me, her gaze complex, no longer the imperious HR director, but someone much more familiar, someone from 3 years ago. You've changed, she murmured, the words escaping as if by accident. People have to change, I replied calmly, turning her own words from that last day back on her. Those who stand still get left behind by the world. Her face went pale, and her fingers tightened around her pen. Just then, the door swung open and a man in a plaid shirt and thick-rimmed glasses hurried in. Sorry, my last meeting ran over, he said cheerfully, extending a hand to me. You must be Leo Carter. I'm Mark Jenkins, head of product. I've seen your portfolio. Seriously impressive stuff. I quickly stood to shake his hand. Mr. Jenkins, good to meet you. Mark sat beside me, glancing at Isabella. So, Bella, how's the initial screening going? Isabella slipped her professional mask back on. We're still covering the basics, she said coolly. Mark laughed. The basics are on the resume. Let's get to the good stuff. Leo, those 3 points you made about Sphere, they're almost identical to the conclusions from our last internal review. Especially your 3rd point, about social fission. We've been stuck on that for months. Your approach is a breakthrough. The interview's center of gravity shifted entirely to Mark. He was like a kid who'd found a new best friend, pulling me deep into product details, from technical implementation to market strategy. We clicked instantly. Isabella sat on the sidelines, a silent observer. She said almost nothing, her pen making aimless marks on her notepad, her gaze drifting toward the window. I could feel her reevaluating me, trying to reconcile the man in front of her. Articulate, insightful, a leader, with the quiet, head-down coder she had left behind. When it was over, Mark walked me to the door, clapping me on the shoulder. Leo, keep your phone on. I really want you on this team. We're going to build some amazing things together. Thank you, Mark. I'd look forward to that. I turned and met Isabella's eyes. She had stood up, her expression unreadable. HR will be in touch regarding the next steps, she said, her voice all business. I nodded once, turned, and walked out without another word. Outside, the afternoon sun felt warm on my skin. I let out a long, slow breath, feeling as though I'd just survived a battle. I hadn't crumbled at the sight of her. I had performed at my absolute best. That was enough. Whatever happened next, I had already WON.my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Coffee shop downstairs. Can we talk? I knew who it was. After a moment's hesitation, I walked toward the cafe. Some things needed a proper ending. Isabella was already there, at a table by the window. She'd taken off her suit jacket, and in a simple silk blouse, she looked less formidable, more tired. A half-empty latte sat in front of her. I didn't expect it to be you, she said as I sat down, her voice a little hoarse. Neither did I. How have you been? She asked, the question tentative, probing. Good, I said, my tone level. Busy making money, busy learning, busy becoming the man you always wanted me to be. The barb hit its mark. Her face paled again, her fingers trembling slightly as she lifted her cup. Leo, about what happened. I was wrong, she said quietly, her gaze fixed on the swirling foam. I was too young, too impatient. I let the glamour of this city blind me. I watched her, saying nothing. A late apology was like a thin coat in a blizzard. It offered no warmth, no protection. After I left you, she continued, a bitter smile touching her lips, I met my husband. He's one of the firm's investors. He gave me everything I thought I wanted. The condo, the car, this directorship. She laughed, a hollow sound. To everyone else, I'm a success story. But, she trailed off, but I could see the profound loneliness swimming in her eyes, which had once been so bright. I remembered her telling me, years ago, that one day we'd open a small bookstore, that I'd write code while she tended the shop, that we'd get a cat and live a quiet life. Now she had the money, but she had become a person she used to despise. Seeing you today, so confident and brilliant, I realized that what I threw away might have been the most valuable thing I ever had. I thought I was leaving poverty behind, but I was really leaving behind a person who would have given me everything and a chance to grow together. Her voice cracked, the sealed-off part of my heart felt a faint tremor, but the feeling passed, leaving only calm. Some wounds heal, but the scars remain. Isabella, I said, my voice so steady it surprised even me. It's all in the past. Yes, it's in the past, she repeated, as if trying to convince herself. I didn't ask you here to ask for forgiveness, and certainly not to get back together. I just wanted to tell you that Mark is ecstatic. You'll have an offer by tomorrow. I hope you don't turn it down because of me. Nexus is a great platform for you. I looked at her, the woman who had abandoned me at my lowest point, now advocating for my career. The irony was staggering. Whether I accept the offer is my decision, I said. But I have no intention of letting personal history interfere with my work. Good, she said quickly. At the office, I'm just Isabella Vance, the HR director. You're just Leo Carter, the product manager. We're just colleagues. Fine. I stood up. Thanks for the coffee. I have to go. I didn't look back. Walking out of the cafe, I felt no thrill of revenge, no flicker of rekindled love. I felt only peace, as if I had just completed a long overdue ritual of farewell. I finally knew, with absolute certainty, that I was no longer in love with her. My 3-year climb hadn't been for her. It had been for me. Her reappearance was just an accident, a catalyst that proved I had finally, truly moved on. The next morning, the official offer from Nexus Innovations arrived. The salary and title were even better than I'd hoped. I clicked accept. A week later, I started. My desk was by a window in the product department, with an expansive view. Mark introduced me to the team, a friendly, brilliant group of people working in an open and efficient environment. I dove into the work immediately. Isabella and I kept our pact, becoming the most ordinary of colleagues. We exchanged polite, formulaic greetings in the hallway. In meetings, our discussions were strictly about data and logic, devoid of any personal emotion. She was, I had to admit, an incredibly professional HR director. And I, with my own hard-won expertise, quickly established myself as a key player on the team. My first major project was to lead the development of the social fiction feature I'd proposed in my interview. The team was composed of the company's best, and we worked tirelessly, holding marathon meetings, sketching wireframes, writing code, and running tests. For a time, the office became my home. A few times, late at night, I'd run into Isabella in the break room. With her makeup off, dressed in simple sweats, she looked vulnerable, exhausted. We never spoke, just silently prepared our respective coffees before returning to our separate battle stations. But in those quiet moments, I began to see her in a new light. She hadn't gotten to where she was just because of her husband. She had worked for it, desperately. The night before the project launch, the entire team pulled an all-nighter. At 3 a.m., Mark ordered food for everyone, and the atmosphere was electric with nervous energy. I found a quiet corner to eat my noodles. Isabella approached, handing me an ice-cold Coke. "Good work," she said. "You too," I replied, popping the tab. For the first time, we had a moment of peace amidst the chaos. "Do you remember," she said suddenly, "how I used to make you noodles when you stayed up all night coding?" I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. I remember. Of course I did. The kitchen in that old studio was tiny, but her noodles had been a magic cure for all my exhaustion. "Are mine as good as hers?" A bright voice cut in. I looked up to see Chloe Davis, our team's UI/UX designer, smiling down at me with a plate of fruit. Chloe was fresh out of college, a ball of positive energy, and we had developed a fantastic working rhythm during the project. "Yours are way better, Chloe," I said with an easy laugh that I saw Isabella's expression falter under the fluorescent lights. She forced a smile. "You two talk. I'm going to check on the others." She turned and walked away quickly. Chloe sat down beside me, nudging my arm. "Leo, is it just me, or does the big boss look at you funny?" "Don't be ridiculous. She's my boss," I deflected. "I don't buy it," Chloe pouted. "Seriously though, a guy like you, how are you still single?" I just smiled, not answering. I wasn't single. I was just waiting for the right person. Someone who could fight alongside me at work and share a bowl of noodles with me in the quiet of the night. The new feature launched and was a phenomenal success. User growth and engagement metrics shot through the roof. The company threw a huge party for our team. At the celebration, a very drunk Mark Jenkins grabbed my arm, slurring, "Leo, you're my lucky charm. The boards approved a massive bonus for you, and we're promoting you to product director. You'll be my equal." Cheers erupted around me. I raised my glass, and my eyes scanned the crowd, finding Isabella sitting alone in a corner. She wasn't looking at me. She was just swirling the red wine in her glass, a portrait of loneliness. Just then, a well-dressed, middle-aged man walked up to her, sliding an arm possessively around her waist. I recognized him from the company's website, Richard Sterling, a major investor, Isabella's husband. He murmured something to her, and she immediately pasted on a warm, compliant smile, rising to follow him as he made the rounds with the executives. The smile was perfect, practiced, and as thin as a mask. I looked away and drained my glass. We all choose our own paths. After the party, I was waiting for my Uber when I saw Isabella standing alone by the curb, apparently waiting for her own ride. Her husband was nowhere in sight. A black Porsche screeched to a halt in front of her. The window rolled down to reveal Richard's impatient face. "What are you waiting for? Get in," he barked. Isabella silently opened the door and got in. The car sped off, leaving me standing in its exhaust fumes. I didn't know what was happening between them, and I didn't want to. I only wondered, for a fleeting moment, if things would have been different if I'd had today's success 3 years ago. But there are no what-ifs. Time pushes us all forward. A missed chance is missed forever. With my bonus and savings, I made a down payment on a condo in a nice downtown neighborhood. It wasn't huge, but it had a south-facing balcony, just like I'd always wanted. On moving day, Chloe and a few colleagues came to help. We ate pizza on the floor of my new living room, the place filled with laughter. Chloe raised her soda can in a toast. "To the new director, congratulations on the new place. And here's hoping you find a leading lady for it soon." I smiled and clinked my can against hers. "Thanks, Chloe." My gaze drifted to the window, to the city lights glittering like a river of stars. I finally had my own small point of light in this vast, sprawling city. Life at Nexus continued, busy and fulfilling. Isabella and I maintained our professional distance. Sometimes, during a late night at the office, I'd see her staring blankly out her window, or notice her in the convenience store downstairs, silently eating instant noodles. Her diamond ring still flashed, her title was still impressive, but the light in her eyes seemed to be dimming. I overheard some nurses gossiping during the annual company health checkup. They said Richard Sterling was openly cheating on her, that he was abusive. I felt no satisfaction, only a distant sense of melancholy. The life she had killed us for, the condo with the view, had become her prison. And I, having walked away from that 40-square-foot studio, had found a much wider world. At the end-of-year company gala, I was named Employee of the Year. Standing on the stage, the spotlight was hot and blinding. I looked out at the sea of faces and began my acceptance speech. I want to thank the company, and I want to thank my team, I said. But most of all, I want to thank the man I was 3 years ago, the man who had nothing. He's the one who taught me that real security doesn't come from what others can give you. It comes from what you build for yourself. When you become your own source of light, you're no longer afraid of the dark. The applause was thunderous. I saw Chloe in the front row, clapping wildly, her eyes shining. And then I saw Isabella. She was sitting in a dimly lit corner, tears streaming down her face. Our eyes met across the crowd, across the years. I gave her a small, deliberate nod. It was a farewell, and it was a blessing. A farewell to our tangled past, and a blessing for her to find her own way forward. As for me, my road was just beginning.